People often ask me, do your strengths change? And my very professional answer to that is sometimes. So for each person, I feel like it's different. I also feel like it depends on what's going on in your life when you take the test. If you take it multiple times, has there been a significant change, not just in maybe what you're doing in life, but more about your mindset? What has your own growth been like? So I have one client who has taken the test probably like 5 or 6 times. And within, I would say, her top 13, pretty much they're all the same strengths. They move around a little bit in terms of which one shows up in exactly what number. And if you get caught up in that part of it, then you're going to feel like it's changed. When I look at it in terms of the top and the top 13, if they're all pretty much the same exact strengths, it doesn't really matter the order. That's your personal process. So foundationally, that's her no matter how many times she takes the test. Now, I have another client though who had a strength like context in the bottom 5. And so that at that point in that person's life when they took it, they were not about thinking about the past. There was something going on there that they did not was not serving them well in terms of looking backwards. But then they took the test like 6 years later, and all of a sudden context was in the top. And so that made a huge shift. And I happen to know this person, so I realize that they had a big growth in terms of coming to terms with some things that had been happening in their past and that they were looking at, and now worked through it, moved through it, and now looked at history as a whole. And this now better represents this client. So sometimes you can have a big shift like that. Sometimes you really don't. As far as myself, when I first took the Clifton Strengths Assessment, I had just moved to California. I had just gone through my divorce. I had just empty nested, and I was just trying to figure out who the heck I was and what this life meant for me. So when I took it, I had certain strengths show up in different areas. Well, then I retook it again, I believe it was like last year. Within the year, I retook it. And some things in my life have really settled down and I have found my way. So I had 3 strengths that got actually replaced. It was kind of interesting. So at first, I had restorative high. At that time when I had just moved and all those things were going on, you better believe I was about problem solving. And I was still kind of stuck in what's the problem? What do I have to do to face it? What do I have to do to peel it back? How can I better understand this so that I can find some type of solution to understand how I can move forward in this life? And that one got replaced by maximizer. So I no longer focus on the problems. Instead, I am looking at what can I take where I'm at now and how do I make that better? How do I just improve upon where I'm at now instead of worrying about and focusing on the problems and coming up with solutions? I'm coming up with ways for improvements. So that was a shift. And then a second one was in the beginning, the first time I took it, strategic was high. I was trying to figure out a plan. I was thinking, I was creating, I was learning, I was gathering all kinds of information and resources to help me figure out some type of plan of how I was going to handle all these new changes in my life and move forward. Well, recently when I took it again, that one was replaced by ideation. I no longer felt in the structure mode of needing a plan, since that plan had kind of worked out and I had created one and I was now following that plan. Now that allowed me the opportunity to let my mind go and get a bit more creative with it. And so with these different businesses I've been opening and these different ventures that I've been on, I have definitely been leaning into that creativity strength. And when I have an idea, I will go after it and see what comes of it instead of thinking it has to be a very concrete plan. So I'm playing playing a little bit more with it, which is fun. Scary, but fun. And then the next shift was positivity was in my top when I was going through all of that. And I think a lot of that was because I so badly needed to be optimistic. I had just come out of a very rough period in my life, and I needed to look forward and have a very positive mindset. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do the things I did. I would not have been able to pick up and move across the country. I would have stayed where I was and played victim mode and felt stuck. I just would have felt stuck. So I really needed that strong optimism at that point in my life. And now I'm a bit more real. So instead of positivity, I now have belief in my top. So I look at things with a little bit more through the lens of my core values. Does this make sense to me? Do I feel this is right? I've set more boundaries in terms of how I view things that are going on in the world and with the people in my life. So there's a few examples of how your strengths can shift, and I find it very fascinating and interesting because it helps you get through whatever it is that you're doing in life, wherever you are, whether you're in struggle mode or you are flourishing. If you know how you're going about it best and you can lean into that, boy, that leverage that you have, that extra bit of information and knowledge to help you really dig into this personal process that you naturally do, but now you can do with intention. You can set the world on fire if that's what you want.